Hey everyone, it's Brian with Portable Generator Services. Just wanted to make a quick video for any homeowner that has a portable generator. Any brand. If you are not maintaining it like you would your car, you're gonna have issues. If you leave your car and you don't touch it for 6 months, what happens? Battery's dead? Okay. Same as the generator, okay? You don't have that battery, if you're not running it, or you don't have it hooked up to a trickle charger, it is the same exact thing that will happen as with your car. The battery will die and the generator won't start. Is that the manufacturer's problem, or is that a you problem? It's a you problem. Okay? Next thing. Just like a car. You leave your car sitting for 2 years, yeah, you're gonna need a battery. Yeah, your fuel system is going to be clogged. Your pump might not work. The only difference that cars have on generators is we're not using carburetors anymore. So we're using fuel injected, right? It's more pressurized. There's less things that can clog. That's the bottom line. When you are using a carburetor, gasoline will clog the system if you are not maintaining it correctly. So let's touch on how to maintain your system. This is what I tell all of my customers. We're gonna start, and I'm in Florida, so you might have to adjust this. In Florida, I tell my customers, right before hurricane season starts, go ahead and add half a gallon of fuel to your empty generator tank. Your empty fuel tank, it's completely empty already. We'll talk about how to get you completely empty if you're not completely empty yet, which we'll talk right now. If you're not empty, there's a link. I'll post a link. You can buy one of those battery operated fuel siphons that are like specifically made for gas tanks and gasoline, like lawnmowers and all that. You can shove it right where you would add the gas to your generator and press a button. It's battery operated and it just sucks the fuel out, so that you literally only have a little bit left of fuel that you won't be able to pick up because it won't reach the littlest bit, right? Cool. Now you can just run it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and it'll burn out the rest of the fuel, right? So, back to where we're starting. It's beginning of hurricane season. There's no fuel in the generator. I tell the customer, go ahead and, grab a 5-gallon jug, but only put about half a gallon in. Not even. A quart of fuel, basically. Turn on the fuel valve, disconnect your battery tender, turn the battery charge light switch on. Whatever setup you have, if it's electric, electric start, you're gonna have an on-off switch that needs to be on. It might have a key. Make sure your fuel valve is on, choke closed. And when you turn the fuel valve on, because that should be always off when you're not using the generator, let it sit for 30 seconds so it fills the carburetor. If you don't do that, it might start instantly or it might crank a little bit and then start. I just wait, 10 seconds. That's all it takes, not even. Open the fuel valve, check your oil. Make sure your oil level is topped off. And start the generator. Does it start? Awesome. You want to perform a test, plug something into it, it works, it powers everything. Cool. Now, we're at the beginning of hurricane season. You can either decide to run that completely out, disconnect your stuff if you were testing stuff and now your generator's running still with that little bit of fuel in there. You either shut it down. We know that the generator's working, so you can shut it down and either... So, like, this is what I say. So when you shut it down, after we've tested it, we know it's working. We're gonna shut it down a certain way. How do you do that? Well, disconnect everything so that it's not powering anything. And then while it's running, I want you to shut the fuel valve off and let the gen continue to run. It's gonna run even when you shut the fuel valve off for like a minute or two, because it's burning out the little bit of fuel that's in the line and in that carburetor bowl, which is filled with fuel while the gen is running, right? Let it run out of fuel that way. Go ahead, once it dies, let it cool off, whatever, put it back in the garage. If you have a cover for it, make sure it's cooled off and let it sit. Let's say a hurricane comes throughout hurricane season. I tell my customers, if you live in Florida, you know how it is where we'll get a hurricane warning and then the thing just doesn't hit us. So listen, this is what I say. Go get your gas tanks filled at this point. Have five, if you need 2 or 3 5-gallon jugs, whatever you normally do to prepare, go ahead and do that. But do not put it in the generator yet. We know our gen's working. If you're more, nervous, then go ahead, test it again if you want. The main thing is always getting rid of the fuel out of the carburetor when you're not gonna use it and it's gonna sit. I will post photos of what happens when the fuel sits for even just a year. Down here in Florida, with the humidity, if you're in a humid state, you have to make sure you're getting rid of your gas, because the issues that I run across down here are just insane. I'll have a customer where I put a brand new carb on and get some nice Rec 90 fuel or, ethanol free, and a year later, it'll be gummed up still. And I talk to so many people about this in other groups, and they're like, I live up north and like that never happens. I put gas in and I don't run it out and it starts the first crank. So like, it's always just best to practice the best cautionary, tactic in a way, and that is shutting the fuel valve off and letting it run itself out. Now, when it runs out, it's gonna run really rough. It's gonna go and then finally die. Don't be alarmed, just let it do that. And then, so like I said, get your gas tanks filled, but don't fill the tank up unless the hurricane is literally a day away, right? Or even it is gonna hit us. Then you can go ahead and fill the tank up all the way on the generator, right? We know we're gonna use it, and at this point, even if it missed us, we still need to prepare, right? So, boom, you put it in. Let's say we use it, okay, cool. Now, the end of hurricane season comes, and we know that we're not gonna really use the generator for the next 5 months or so. November comes, and we know November, December, January, February, March, you're not gonna be using it. April, May, you're not gonna be, unless you're a business or whatever. If you're just a homeowner, you're more than likely not gonna use it, right? Unless you have outages a lot or, consistent long outages. But for, down here, I never hear of that. They only use it for hurricane season. At the end of hurricane season, use the fuel siphon and drain everything out. And I want you to also shut the fuel valve off. And so drain everything out and try and start the generator. And it should still start because there's going to be some fuel in there. Drain all the fuel out with your siphon, and then let the generator run and shut the fuel valve off. Like I told you, let it run. It's going to run rough, and then it'll finally die. Make sure you don't have a load attached to it at that point, obviously. And then you're good to store it for extended periods of time. If you have any questions, let me know. but I hope this kind of helps some people know what the correct process is. If there's any people that think the process is wrong, let me know so that I can fix it. Maybe I'm not thinking about something correctly. You know, I'm not a genius. I'm just trying to help people with stuff I've learned, and typically it's it's something that you guys wouldn't know. So, you know, because I work on these every day. But let me know what you think. There are a couple other options that you can do. For example, you can take the bleed screw out of the carburetor bowl, that little side screw that is there on like 90% of the carbs. Not the bottom main one, there's a side one, usually a 10 mil. What you can do is shut the fuel valve off, open that up, take it completely out, and that's gonna drain the fuel line and the carburetor bowl out of the fuel. And then you can use the siphon to get the fuel out of the tank if you want. You can even drain the whole tank that way by having the fuel valve on, taking that side bleed screw I'm talking about out, and putting something under to catch all the fuel that's gonna drain out. It's gonna literally drain the machine. So there's a couple little things. I just try and make it, you know, tell you the most easy one for a homeowner to do if you don't have tools and whatnot. So anyways, I hope you like this video. Let me know if this helped at all, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.